November 1918 is the birthday of Anglo-Albanian Society. The members of Anglo-Albanian Association were Aubrey Herbert was elected as the president, and Lord Lamington was vice president again. At this time was one person very active, and she was, according to some information, employed by Aubrey Herbert as a secretary and a treasurer. But it wasn't not true. She was never paid. She never got paid by anybody, especially not Aubrey Herbert. I have a pretty good testimony. It's a letter she wrote to Mrs. Morris saying, all I did for Albania, I saved, I never used taxi, I never went to theater, I saved all the money for Anglo-Albanian Association to help Albania. That was Edith Darham. So basically she never got paid. And the only problem she had later in the year during the war, she said she could not pay the telegrams, cablegrams she sent to Fanoli and Paikonitas, because those were very, very, very expensive. And she said almost like bankrupt, you know. Her work with Aubrey Herbert, I mean, it's so fascinating. It's just I need to talk for a couple of days, you know, to explain how many wonderful letters, articles they published. Basically, she helped so much Albania and Albanians with Aubrey Herbert, which was like a fantastic team. Aubrey Herbert had this political connection, the friends in the House of Commons and House of Lords. She had, she drafted letters, and one letter, for example, signed by 26 members of parliament, which was when Albania became a member of the League of Nations. Edith Darham went with Mehmet Konica, who was then Albanian minister or ambassador in the court of St. James, and Mehmet Konica was knew Edith Darham from before, from 1912 to 1913, and he was introduced to Robert Cecil, and Robert Cecil, very few months later, he made the decision that Albania become member of the League of Nations. So this was thanks to Aubrey Herbert, Edith Darham, and Anglo-Albanian Society and the committee. So the work and their task for helping and supporting Albania was great. And one letter, according to Edith Darham, she said if it wasn't for Aubrey Herbert, Albania would not exist at all. I hope the Albanian government, she wrote this 1923, realized that how much work Aubrey Herbert did for Albania and for Albanians. By 1918, one of the greatest work also the committee did, helping Albania become recognized by all the great powers, and by 1920 was the peace conference in Paris, and Albania have several delegations at the peace conference. Edith Darham and Aubrey Herbert were with Erickson, another American philanthropist who helped Albania. They were advisors to the peace conference, and they helped a great deal Albania and Albanian delegation in Paris. There is evidence that Edith Darham met one professor who was advisor to President Wilson, and the president advisor of President Wilson helped. We got quite a lot of help from Edith Darham about boundaries of Albania, to find out how was South Albania, how was North, because the boundary commission which was set up, they have a lot of problems establishing which was Albanian territories, which wasn't Greek or Serbian territories. So Edith Darham did a lot of work and helped. She said in one letter to her friend, she spent hours and sent a lot of document and information to advisor of President Wilson. So Albania was recognized. The help of Albanian committee was great, and as a result, Albania became part of League of Nations, which was till 1939. Sadly enough, Aubrey Herbert was ill and he died 1923. But there is a very interesting letter. I think this is thanks to Malberisha, who informed me about this. Erickson went to see him in the American friend of Herbert in Dixon Park in Somerset. And he asked him, I was charged by Albanian government to ask you to become king of Albania. He said, I'm very happy to accept, but I have an operation. I'm going to have an operation. If I survive, I will say yes. If I don't, then, you know, and he didn't survive, so he died. So basically, with the death of Aubrey Herbert, Anglo-Albanian Association, basically, their work is done, and then basically, association didn't exist until 1943. But at this time, but committee was never dissolved, same like before 1912. At this time, when Aubrey Herbert died, his mother, Lady Carnarvon, who was devoted and loved so much Aubrey Herbert, she spent many £1,000s and left as a bequest for Albania. She started something called Institute Herbert, and the first national library. The books collected by Aubrey Herbert were part of his legacy, basically. She started hospital in Durrës, in Shkodër, in Kavaj, and in Tirana. So the work they done together as a family was they set up a trust in London. One of the members of the trustee was Edith Durham, and was Margaret Haslock, former British Minister Hodgson, and another person was involved later was Oaken Hill, who was at that time in Albania, but he informed them about lots of activities of their sort of charitable work. I have to say I'm very, very proud, and we can't never repay back to this family what they've done for Albania and also Kosovo. They built one village composed of all Albanian refugees, which they used to call, the village used to call Staniri. Now I think they call Staniri. They used to call Herbert during the King's of time, but the name now is changed, and I don't think it exists anymore, the Herbert village. This is all refugees. They come from Kosovo to find the shelter in Albania. Well, these people were helped by Aubrey Herbert's mother and look after Lady Ruth Pennington, who done so much work for Albania. As a result, she was highly decorated alongside Aubrey Herbert's mother, Aubrey Herbert's wife, widow, and brother. The highest decoration was given to them by the King of Albania, King Zog. Basically, we don't have anything, so as a society it didn't exist during 1922, basically, 23, and the 1940-43. During the war, we don't have anything, but October 28, 1942, King Zog was in London, and one of his advisors his name was Shazim Kasrati, who was one of the advisors of King Zog. He initiated something called the Friends of Albania. The Friends of Albania were formed 28 November 1942. The president was elected Miriam Tilsley, and the secretary was Harry Hodgkinson, and Shazim Kasrati was one of the members. According to archives and letters regarding this society, Edith Durham was very much upset. Why these friends, so-called, of Albania, they never informed Mrs. Herbert. She was alive, and she was supposed to be in charge or chairman of every Albanian society. Basically, these people were supported by King Zog, and they done a wonderful job replying to letters to the editors, to various newspapers, and basically they they employed also through King Zog somebody called Karan, who was member of parliament, who was